Hello, everyone. Hi. Hi, welcome to my live. Good to see you. Good to be here. And I'll just make sure that I can be heard. So if you get on here, please let me know that you can hear me. I usually test this with my hubby, but he's not here today. I'm doing this on my PC. It's very different on PC, but I should get the hang of it. So, hello everyone. Nice to connect wherever you are in the world. Um, Happy Madaraka Day to all the Kenyans. Hope you had a wonderful, wonderful Madaraka Day. And a lovely holiday. All right, so I am back, and this is the second part of my deep dive of my book, Finding Your Mr. Right, a sensible guide to attracting and keeping love. I started going through the book, just diving deep, sharing the in stories that may not really be on the book. Last week, or was it last week but one? Yeah, it's last week but one. And I promised that this week, or rather in part two, we will go into my dateless 20s. So if you'd love to read along, please go to my profile, on my Facebook profile. The link is there. You can download the link, read the book, follow along. Tell me what is interesting, what you resonated with. I'll be excited to hear from you. All right. So back to the book, back to the deep dive. So last week on part one, or rather in part one, I shared about how I had a very very difficult breakup in my 20s. Well, it was the first breakup. It was very hard, and so as I advanced into my mid 20s, I was very and I'm just gonna interchange between the live and the book so that I don't miss anything juicy. So yeah, I was very heartbroken, devastated. So of course I developed a fear. I developed a fear like many women who break up, or many people, not only women, even men as well. I developed a fear of meeting a guy who would, after getting together, will somehow break up with me. So I even thought sometimes like, okay, maybe I might get married to somebody and then I might get divorced. I was just afraid. Yeah. And this is sort of where my journey of like being single and dateless began. So at the time, some background information, I was reading a lot of religious books. And in hindsight, the books had fantastic content about love, relationships, but they were very limited to the author's individual experiences, which is not a bad thing, right? But the problem was that I was relying on these books as though it was the gospel truth, like the Bible truth. So when I used to read these books, something very critical, like I started to believe something that I feel is what sort of confused me about dating and love and all that. So there was this concept, and some of you may have heard of this, a very familiar term called courtship versus dating. So dating, let me start with dating. Dating was considered wrong because it led to sin, right? It led to doing something bad. It led to, heartbreak. I don't know, like temporary love. It just led to something bad, and sometimes I don't know, sex or promiscuity or whatever. And this is religious circles, of course. So the books encouraged young people to court, where courtship is basically how I understood it and how it was defined was getting into a relationship with the sole intention of marriage while discovering if this was God's will for you. So dating was sort of like a modern, temporary heartbreak approach that leads to bad things, while courtship was, the way to do it, in that you're getting into a relationship at the beginning with the clarity and the idea that this is heading to marriage, or to discover whether this will go into marriage. So obviously that gave me some kind of like, oh, okay, great. So dating is bad, courtship is good. Great. And of course, to cement it, in the religious circles and churches I was attending at the time, this was also something that was preached and taught a lot. I mean, of course, with good intentions, trying to keep their youth and their young people safe. Um, so I started to build a list of expectations of what a potential guy or suitor will look like, right? Because if I'm to relate with a guy, right, I'm to relate with a guy, then he must have the potential to be a husband, right? This is how I'm thinking. And therefore, anybody who doesn't look like they're not serious or have the potential to be a husband from the get go, any guy who wants to approach me, talk to me, whatever, then that's a no go, right? And I know it might sound a little bit ridiculous depending on where you are in this journey of like love and dating. I know that there's women out there who have the same thought process, right? You're like, okay, I'm just tired of the jokers. I'm tired of, I'm just gonna sort of be very passive and just wait and see and judge any guy who comes in my radar. I need to first like mentally go through this checklist. Like, is he serious? Is he this? Is he that? Right? So anyway, um, so that's what I did, and obviously this was catastrophic, right? Because for two reasons. One, I had almost no dates for most of my 20s. And when I say dates, I don't mean a relationship. I don't mean a guy, like being in a relationship with a guy. I mean, like, I literally never went on a date with any guy for most of my 20s, right? Why? Because I would sort of go through, if a guy tried to invite me or to get to know me, I would go through this sort of mental checklist and be like, you're like this, you're like this, you don't look like this, you don't look like that, and a lot of them, and a lot of those reasons were along characteristics that would make me feel like you will not hurt me. But these are things in my mind. These are things based on the fears that I had. So you had to be looking serious and not a joker, right? Or you have to look like you had to be a guy with potential. And of course, I ended up not dating anyone. I had a dateless life for most of my 20s. Ouch. Now, the second thing that happened as a result of this misbelief or thing that I believed in was that I had a very passive approach to love and dating. So, yes, it's true. Some of the advice that I read in some of these books was, do more of the waiting. When the time is right, God will bring you somebody, the person that is chosen for you. And so I understood this as a potential suitor would somehow find me, right? As I just did my thing of being a good girl or whatever. So again, I became very passive. Why? Because I was sort of like in waiting mode. Actually, there's a book I read that really made me do just that. So again, if I was interested in a guy or if I found some guy like good looking or whatever, I would never, ever, ever, I would never even like look that direction or be warm or open enough to get to know the person. I would just, expect him to come to me, do the pursuing, do everything, which is not a bad thing in a different context. But in this context, it was very extreme because I did absolutely nothing. So I thought that my Mr. Right was somehow supposed to do with fate or destiny, and somehow our paths would cross, and that God would send him knocking my door or somehow. So obviously, as a result of all this, I was dateless for most of my 20s, and I was very passive in as far as love and dating is concerned. So of course, I missed out on so many opportunities to meet different people, to meet guys, to meet different people, to make friends, to build networks. I even studied for my master's degree in the US way back in 2010, 2009, 2010. That was almost 12 years ago. And same idea. I was very passive about it. So I got into my 30s and turned 30, woohoo, start of a new decade. That was very exciting. And at the time, I remember I was back to Kenya from doing my master's here, and I embarked on a journey of self-discovery. I wasn't very happy with my career. I just wasn't feeling like I was at the right place doing the right thing. Kind of like a 30s existential crisis. And I was like, okay, what is this? Am I supposed to be doing this for the rest of my life? At the time, I was working in an government accounting firm. And I just wasn't very excited about what I was doing. So I began to be conscious about questions like, what am I supposed to do? What's my purpose? What's my place in the world? Is this all that I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? So around 30, 31, I started to work with a coach who really helped me just become very clear on my values. And one of the things that emerged was I was out of alignment with the things that I valued, which is like helping people, motivating people. I was mismatched. And of course, the relationship conversation would come up, and I was still very unsure at this point. Like, I knew something was off, like I'm 30s, I've never really dated, I really want to meet somebody, but I just couldn't connect the dots. I couldn't fill in the gaps, or I really couldn't figure out what it is that I was supposed to do. So I remember having this conversation with my coach. It was very life-changing. By the way, that coach ended up marrying my husband and I. Very wonderful person in my life. So he asked me a question, and and I'll just read it. He said, I posed this question to him: do you think I need to go out and do something about my love? Like, this is what I asked him. Or do you think that I should wait on God to bring me my person? So he responded, and he asked me a very powerful coaching conversation that I'll never forget. He asked me, if you were to continue waiting, would that make you feel empowered, or will it make you feel disempowered? I thought about it, and I said, of course waiting makes me feel disempowered. And he was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. And then he went on to explain to me that finding love, or anything you seek in life, is a partnership between you and God. It's a partnership, including finding love. This was a huge mindset change for me. So huge. So huge that I decided, you know what? I'm going to be deliberate about finding love, right? I just decided. Now, of course, I didn't know, what does that mean? How am I going to do it? What does that involve? Is it involving going around and be like, can you marry me? You can marry me? Of course not. But I just decided, I was like, no more passivity, no more fears, no more just being in this passive approach. And by the way, if it's prayers, I have prayed them all. If it is fasting, I had fasted. If it's year after year writing and the list of what I want in a guy, I had that. But I still, for me, my journey is that there is something that I learned that I needed to do. I was more of a partnership with God, taking certain actions. So I embraced that truth. And the first thing that I had to do is strengthen my new mindset that it's okay, it's not bad, it's not a sin, right? It's not a sin to date and to go out on dates and get to know people. It's not a sin to have fun and connect with people. It's not wrong. So I was like, how will I start? Then I experienced my second mind shift. And I asked myself these questions, and we are 14 minutes, but I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna go through it. I asked myself a question. I said, what if I never get married? What if I never get married? What if I never meet somebody? How different would I live my life today if I knew for sure that I would never get married? How would I live my life differently? What have I been putting off today so that I can do in the future when I meet my significant other? What have I been putting off? How do I want to live the rest of my life? And after pondering these questions, I realized that I had been consciously or unconsciously putting some aspects on my life on hold. So, what did I do? I gave myself permission to put marriage off the table and said, how will I live my life if I never got married? How can I start living today? You see, it was something I wanted so badly because I'd been programmed to think about courtship and not dating. I never thought it was okay. I never thought that I would be okay with the idea of not getting married. So I put it off the table. Honestly, I felt such a huge relief. Why? Because anytime I thought about interacting with guys, like that was what was in my mind. And I felt a heavy burden lifted off my shoulder. And this is when I truly started living my life. So I started living my life for me. And that's where I'm going to end in today's live. So if you would like to read ahead and just get in and continue the hearing the story, again, please go on my profile and I will insert a link here when I post this, and you can go ahead and download the book. In case you have any issues downloading, please let me know. And if you have any questions or any I have some comments, but my mouse is stuck. Oh, there we go. Oh, let me see. Oh, hi Florence and Wamboi. Hi, thank you for joining me. So anyway, I was saying that if you want to read along, please go ahead and download the link. I will include the link on this post, and I will see you next time. All right, bye. Thanks for watching.